During Adolf Hitler's reign of terror, brave people and nations helped save Jews from the horrors of the Holocaust. Most famously, Oskar Schindler, but not so famously, the Dominican Republic. In 1938, 32 nations convened in Evian, France, to discuss ways to help these refugees from Germany and Austria. Only the Dominican Republic opened its borders with an offer to resettle 100,000 Jews to a small beach town called Sosua.
I was never sure in Germany whether my father would come home or whether they would just send the clothes that they killed him. It wasn't alive. I was 14 years old when I went to the Dominican Republic. People asked my father, where is that? And my father's answer was, I don't know and I don't care. It will save our lives. I came to Sosua and I could walk on the street and nobody spit at me. That was the very first time I felt like a human being.
In wartime Berlin, food was being rationed, and Jews could only shop for groceries at the end of the day when supplies were low or completely gone. To feed his family, Ruth's father struck a deal with a local butcher. His silver and crystal for meat.
My father put the crystal and the silver in my bag for school. She only had pork. You know, we do not eat pork.
Yes.
But we ate pork. And my father, I have such respect. You know, sometimes I get a little teary-eyed, I'm sorry. If somebody had stopped me on the tramway and said, what do you have in your school bag? School is out already. They would have shot us on the spot.
Ruth's uncle escaped a concentration camp and found refuge in Sosua. From there, he sent the family 4 visas. As they left Germany, Hitler closed the country's borders, which is the major reason why just under 1,000 Jews made it to Sosua.
It was October 14th, 41, and the next day it was closed. We would not, it was the last train. He didn't let anyone, no matter what age, out anymore. We went to France, where the Germans made us completely strip. They examined every opening.
After that humiliating experience, the family boarded a ship in Portugal. They arrived in the Dominican Republic on the day that would live in infamy.
Japanese have attacked Pearl Harbor, Hawaii by air, President Roosevelt has just announced.
I was born in Puerto Plata, Dominican Republic, and I spent much time in Sosua not knowing its history. As I walked around the town, I could see how Jewish culture is seamlessly integrated into local life.
There was never any prejudice here or anything against Jews. We were always treated as citizens.
The Refugee Relocation Program was organized by the New York City-based American Jewish Joint Distribution Committee.
And they wanted the project to succeed. So they chose people whom they know would survive in the tropics, very primitive conditions in those days. At the beginning, they did not bring over families. They brought in mostly young males. And later on, they were able to bring some of their family.
Joe Benjamin helps run the Museo Judío Sosua, which celebrates life in the settlement.
There's one exhibit of all the children who were born here. There's one exhibit of the people who had their bar mitzvah here.
Among the many photos on view, Joe points out a personal one.
Yeah, this is me at my bar mitzvah.
The museum also tells how the community thrived after the creation of a meat and dairy business that grew to be nationally respected.
And when the standards for butter were made by the government, they mentioned Sosua butter, not just butter.
Also on view is a photo of the first wedding at the synagogue. And the bride is Ruth, who as a nurse in the settlement married Dr. Herbert Kohn. Eventually, the Kohns moved to Long Island, New York, and worked at the Central Islip Psychiatric Center, where Ruth's fluency in Spanish came in handy.
We had a nursery, most of them were Hispanic. The teachers were not allowed to speak Spanish with them, but when I wanted to know if that child has a problem or something, I had to speak to the child in their native language. So I was the only one who was allowed to speak Spanish with them.
This fascinating story of Jews getting a second chance at life is not without controversy. Their savior and Dominican dictator Rafael Trujillo orchestrated a massacre of thousands of Haitian migrants. Some say that extending the 100,000 visas was his way of getting back into the good graces of the United States.
Sure, there's a lot of speculation because, you know, we always say when you're drowning in the sea and somebody throws you a life raft, you don't start asking him what his motive is, you hold on to it.
If somebody had said we should fly to the moon, I mean, the idea was that we will be killed.
Some people still hold Germans responsible for the atrocities of World War II, but Ruth is careful not to place blame on the wrong generation.
I have forgiven. Those are not the people who killed the Jews.
So you made your peace with Germans?
No, I haven't forgiven the one who killed my brother and said.
Ruth now shares her experience in hopes that what happened to her would never happen again. But when she watches the nightly news, she's saddened to see that history is repeating itself. She sees politicians vilifying and scapegoating an entire religion and desperate refugees fleeing a war trapped in an all too familiar place.
When they came out of Syria and went to Hungary and then they were sitting on the station, I was sitting here crying because I identified with these people. It is my life over again.